Welcome back. We have our current events panel, and joining me is Michelle Simard and Mike Patton. Okay, let's sort of stay in the same realm, but switching a little bit of a gear. It has just been revealed that the Trudeau-led Liberal government, because now we have Prime Minister Mark Carney, spent 11 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars on overseas gender programs during his tenure. So in about 10 years or so. That's a lot of money. Mike, why don't you unpack this for us? What's going on here?
Well, the Liberal government has, as part of their international development programs, really focused on gender equality in especially third world countries, places that are very religious and have very strong feelings. So they've been investing a great deal of money to help promote women's rights, even in places where the population doesn't have enough food to eat or enough healthcare to stay healthy.
Okay. That's very interesting. I used to do like lobbying at the UN, and I remember it's funny how some people can really miss the forest from the trees. Like we'd be talking about how kids of the world in these very underdeveloped areas needed access to the internet when they legit didn't even have a well for clean water. So this seems, another one of those circumstances. Michelle, I'll let you chime in here, then I might offer some of my commentary.
Sure. So really at the end of the day, the idea is fantastic. Like, I mean, like when you hear it on the paper, you're like, this is great. Of course you want that. And really at the end of the day, how do you do that? I mean, you gotta put money into other societies to develop because if their countries and their societies are not going to do it, then you have to do it. The only problem I have is this. When you look at the amount of money that was spent and you look at what happened with COVID and all the money that our government put out to help sustain our economy during this very difficult time, you sit there and say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you spending this kind of while it's a noble idea and it's great, but like at the end of the day, it's like I said, when you pay for household expenses, are you going to keep giving money out and not pay your bills and not buy groceries? Or are you going to pay your groceries and say, whatever I have left, I will try to help? That was a lot of money. It should have been toned down. At the end of the day, the message still could have been put out there. But that kind of coin was insurmountable given what we went through with COVID. And even to this day, CRA is still trying to get money back from all the free money they had given, which had strings attached. So for me, I sit there and be like, noble, nice, bad timing, too much money. Do something about it, just not that kind of money. At the end of the day, we got to take care of our home base first, because if we don't, then what are we left with?
Yeah, I mean,
Disenfranchised.
$11 billion
Yeah.
dollars is a lot of money. Now, I do recall, like you aptly pointed out, I think it was you, Michelle, that this is just, every government kind of adopts its pet project. Trudeau, it was gender equality, and we'll discuss what that may or may not mean. I remember under Prime Minister Stephen Harper, his predecessor, it was maternal health initiatives abroad. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how things paid out. But here's my question, and maybe this is rhetorical, but so assuming that this is not about gender ideology and we're just funding like equality of the sexes, male and female, abroad,
Yeah.
I take issue with that when we are in the abroad promoting equality of the sexes. When I would argue we don't have equality of the sexes here in Canada, when we can have biological males in women's prisons or in women's sports getting pummeled, and women's safe spaces are now being compromised with biological males who identify as trans women. So I'm having a hard time digesting this one. And I guess I'll ask you this question, Mike. Were part of the $11 billion spent on transgender promotion abroad?
Oh, of course. And LGBTQ and all the rest, it was all included in the package. And it is such a contrast because what do we have to show for that $11 billion? Stephen Harper's pet project, as you mentioned, was maternal health projects, and this was all about helping women so that they would find it easier to have children and deliver children. And it went into all sorts of aspects. It went into education. It went into food programs. It went into general health and medical programs. It was an anchor by which a lot of really good things were done in smaller communities around the world. We spend millions and millions of dollars to promote gender ideology and same sex everything in places like Afghanistan, and we have nothing to show for it at the end of the day.
Fair point. And I don't think Afghanistan's probably very hospitable to these ideologies. I don't think their religion would support that. So is this just good money after, like, being wasted, essentially? Okay.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
No return on investment. No return on investment. Bottom line.
Okay, we're going to pick this up in just a few moments.